All right, well, it's 8:34. I don't want to waste y'all's time. We might have hopefully some more people sign on during the presentation. If the dog starts barking, I'll put her downstairs. Let's see. So if you're wondering where we get these sessions from, we get them from, at the beginning of each chapter in the book, they break it down into things like objectives that you're supposed to learn.
Okay, yeah.
And each one of these sessions is one of those objectives.
Okay.
We tried to pare it down as much as we could because we knew when we did it Saturdays with y'all, it was like 7 hours straight, and we didn't want to do 7 hours of presentations because we thought that was mean. So we have it, I think, cut down to, let's see, around 3 instead. So as you're, hanging your head saying, where the crap did she get 7 presentations from? That's kind of where it went from. All right, can everybody see the PowerPoint screen?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. All right, cool. So this is the 3rd session for creative. If you haven't seen the first 2, I definitely have the first one up for Shanielle on Google Docs. I need to check and see if I have the second one up yet. I'm not sure. And this is the session on recognizing creativity and making space for it. And according to your textbook, where did I put my textbook? It's around here somewhere. Oh, my computer's on it. That's smart. All right. According to the textbook, creativity is seeing things in new ways, going beyond the information you already have, thinking unconventionally, making something unique. Good morning, Tawana. Combining unrelated things into something new. So just off the top of your head, what famous person do you think of when you think of creativity? What is a famous creative person? Either alive or dead. Who?
Well, you know what? For me, it'd be Beyonce.
There we go. So which one of these categories do you think she falls into?
Let me see.
Probably a few.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah, it's quite a few of them, actually.
So which one jumps out at you for Beyonce?
Well, there's Make Something Unique.
Okay. Awesome.
And then, yeah. Well,
Does anybody else have somebody that pops into their head for being creative?
For me, Frida Kahlo, that's a famous painter from Mexico.
Yes.
That's who actually I was thinking of. That's the first one that popped in my head.
We have 2 Frida Kahlo fans. Wonderful. So which one of these do you think Kahlo falls under?
I think it's because she was sick and she was represent all the suffering she's doing by painting.
Mm-hmm.
Painting by herself, represent by herself the pictures about the pain she was suffering.
So she did a couple things. She showed painting in a different way than it had been done before. So seeing things in a new way. She was very unconventional, wasn't she, as a person?
Yes.
Anybody else have a creative person they want to throw out there? Okay. Let's see what else we got. All right. So just like with your speech and with your thinking out loud for children, it works better for them if you model being creative and thinking outside the box. So different ways you can do this are to add it into the schedule at times where it doesn't mess with the kids' transitions and everything. So for the reason I'm saying that is we know that toddlers especially need that schedule where they know breakfast is at this time. And after breakfast, we have a transition. We wash our hands, and then we go to the carpet, and then we go outside, whatever that schedule is every day. If you willy-nilly mess with the kids' schedule and say, oh, today, instead of going outside, we're going to go, straight indoors, and then we're going to go outside later, and then we'll wash our hands at a different time. Some children that don't do well with transitions will fall apart on you and then fall on the floor, and then you have a mess. So what you can do instead is find times of the day. So say you're in free choice play and the kids are doing their regular play, they're walking around, you can model creativity by saying, oh, I think that I want to build something new in the block area, and you can get some of the art materials, some of the yarn, the fabric scraps, and take those over to the block area and talk through why you're choosing to bring things over there and what you're doing with them. And that just kind of opens it up for children to say, oh, well, teacher, decided to build something with these tubes and the fabric, maybe I can too. Or if you take some different toys outside with you to the playground that day for them to try different ways to play. Or if you have something, maybe you have sudsy water in the sensory table that week. Well, maybe you fix up the sudsy water, and as the kids are playing, you say, I wonder what would happen if we put some blue coloring in the water. What do you think will happen? And then you go get some, put a little bit in, and they can experiment with it. Okay, so this is going to hurt the hearts of a lot of early childhood people, and I'm sorry to do this to you, but it is considered art and considered creative if you can't tell the kids are doing the same project pretty much at the end of it. So on the left, you can see the teacher was trying to hopefully teach them about folding the paper and putting the paint on one side, the symmetry painting. Has anybody ever tried that?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, the teacher thought, well, this looks like butterflies. I'm going to cut it all into butterfly shapes during my lunchtime, and I'll make it look beautiful and put it out, and the parents will love it. Instead, a quicker way to do it would be to just have the regular sheet of paper, let them still do the symmetry painting by themselves, open it up, discuss what it looks like, and it goes on the wall as it is, instead of trying to make it all look like butterflies, or during Easter time trying to cut everything out yourself and make it like a bunny rabbit.
Yeah, that's what we did once. I've done that before.
Say that again?
I said I've done that before, the paint, and then they just closed it, and then it was my older class, and then I asked them, what is it? Like, what do they see?
Yeah.
So they named their own painting.
Did you get some interesting psychological insight to your children when they told you what the blots look like?
I think one was just, like, out of the box was, like, a cat.
Okay.
The other ones were, like, of course, butterfly, a house, car. Like, you could tell that that's not, or maybe that's what they saw, but I was like, okay. They just heard their friends saying the same thing. I'm not seeing it,
but okay. So, I know we talked about it earlier in the semester that we do the stuff on the left for families and sometimes for ourselves, but it's not really representing the kids where they are with their artwork. The stuff on the right where the kids can mush it up themselves, paint it down themselves without having to have the teacher put an outline on there for them or to cut it out later is more authentic. Okay. So, creating a safe space to be creative. So, some classrooms, the teacher is so on it and so in control of everything that happens in the classroom that the kids are kind of scared to try new things. and to try something that the teacher doesn't approve ahead of time. So what the book recommends and what quite a few of our resources recommend is to try to create an environment where sharing ideas is appreciated and trying new things is appreciated. I have a picture here of a child with an empty box. You know, if you ever bring a box into your classroom, it's going to turn into what?
A car.
A car, a boat.
Old car.
Heaven knows
Something
what
to
it could
fight
be,
over
right?
if it's just one.
Yes.
What was that last?
Is it something to fight over if we just got one?
Very good point. You definitely need more than one box if you bring it into a classroom. But it's not a specific toy. The teacher doesn't have to decorate it any specific way, and the children still come up with ideas of what it can be, right? So the example I have here is you're doing a coloring activity, and one child turns the crayon on its side and starts using the wide side for it. Some teachers that are more controlling would say, oh, you're holding it wrong. This is how you hold the crayon to make a mark. Whereas a teacher that's trying to support creativity would say, oh, I see you're using the crayon a different way. The way you're using it now is making wider lines or thicker lines. And that opens it up for the kids to try different ways of using their crayons. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So when I was working with young teachers, they had especially some difficulty understanding the difference between letting the kids be creative and letting them tear stuff up. So I'll let you think on that for a second. So I have some examples for you. And actually that expression on the person's face here, I had that a couple times walking in the classrooms trying to explain what was going on. One classroom in particular, the children wanted to create a bridge from one side of the classroom to the other to walk on. And guess what they chose to make the bridge out of? You'll never guess.
Legos.
No.
Very good guess. They chose to open up all their picture books right in the middle and walk across the spines to get from one side of the classroom to the other. And the teacher in there was like, oh, they're being creative. This is great. And she let them go with it. And then I walked in there and I had that expression. So I saw that one. And then I saw, we got some new hand lenses, those magnifying glasses for the playground for the kids to use. And we had a little patch of cement walkway in the playground. And I was walking out there seeing that everybody was okay. And one of the kids was down on the ground and she had that hand lens pushed against the cement going on the cement. And I was like, what you doing? She's like, well, listen to this sound I'm making on the cement. And I'm like, girl, you killing that hand lens. You need to stop. And the teacher is like, but they're being creative. It's like, no, this is not creative. This is destructive. So you have to, when you start allowing creativity and encouraging creativity, it's not going to all be wonderful, beautiful, purposeful, Frida Kahlo and Beyonce creativity at the beginning, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you see something and you have this expression on your face, you need to stop and think before you intervene. So is what they're doing that's bothering you, is it hurting a person, either emotionally or physically? Because if it is, you need to stop it, right? Is it breaking a material? Because if it is, then you need to stop it right then to save the material, because it's not like you have $1 million to get new materials every day. Or are they breaking a rule? So sometimes you might have rules in the classroom that existed even before you got there, like another teacher brought you into her room as a assistant teacher and said, these are the rules of this classroom. And maybe there's a rule that you learned that you really don't understand what the purpose of the rule is. Maybe there's a rule that you're only allowed to walk on the right side of the block area and you can't walk on the left. Something silly like that. If you do have a rule like that, then stop and consider, does it need to be a rule? What purpose does it serve? If it doesn't have a good purpose behind it, reconsider the rule. So you do need to stop the creativity if it is going to hurt something. So going into how to do that. All right, so we have in black here the kind of script you could use with an older child, and the script you could use for a younger child is in purple. And we'll use the example of the books going across the classroom for the bridge. So let's say you have 3-year-olds, and we'll do it for the older kids first, and then we'll do it for the younger ones. So you see that the kid has the books all across the classroom lined up, and they're starting to stomp across the spines. You stop them because they are breaking materials, and you say, oh, tell me why you've put the books down on the floor. Hopefully they're going to tell you, I'm making a bridge. Okay. That's when you stop and say, I'm noticing, or I think that you are breaking the books by walking across them. Or you could say, what do you think will happen to the books if you keep walking across them for your bridge? Have them think about it a little bit. Your older 2-year-olds can also do this. It's like, what do you think will happen if you keep walking on the books? And then for number 3, since we're hurting the books, we can't do this with the books. What else can we use to make a bridge across the classroom? And then problem solve together about what else you could put on the ground for them to walk across. All right, so that's for older kids. For younger ones, some that don't really have the language going yet, you might have to describe what you're seeing. So you could say, I see you made a line of books and you're walking across them. If the kid has language, enough language, you can ask them just the same as the older kids, what do you think is going to happen to the books when you're walking on them? If they're younger, they're not going to have any clue, right? So you tell them what's going on. I see that you are ripping the books. What else can we put down for you to walk on that won't rip? So that's how simple you can change it up for a young child. Does that make sense to everybody? Mm-hmm. So you tell them, you either ask them or you tell them what you're seeing. Then you tell them or ask them to help you figure out why that might not be a good idea. And then you work together to figure out what they can do to accomplish the task. And for a really small child, you can ask them, what else can we put down for you to walk on? They might point to something and then you'll be good, right? But sometimes they might just look at you with those big eyes and you're gonna have to come up with some ideas. Could we walk on these papers? You know, can we go to the art area and get some paper instead? Or could we go and get some blocks for you to walk on? Or what else you might have in your classroom to walk on? I don't know, pillows maybe. Okay. So that was a quick one. And then we have one other quick one.